Set.
Okay.
Max is here.
Oh, so
There he
cute.
is. Both Maxes.
Mm-hmm. You do it, Max.
All right, welcome to the live stream.
Hey. Sorry, I'm still
Look at
figuring something out.
What are you trying to figure out?
Boom, boom.
My password.
Password for what? What do
Dude.
you
For what?
So because I don't usually use Chrome,
Uh-huh.
I try to get into my Google account, and yeah, this is embarrassing. Okay. So anyway, Travis, update you as to where you're at because you're in a different location.
Yeah,
I'm in your location.
I'm in a place that has a background that looks like a alleyway in New York, but I'm in San Francisco. You can tell I'm in San Francisco because I have this chair. It's a mid-century modern design. Kind of looks. I brought like this little ball here of light. It was over on that other coffee table when I moved it here, except that was pretty dramatic.
Dramatic.
Love
Yeah.
it.
To bring some drama into the show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, tell us what you've been doing out there this week.
Oh, I was out here with like the design team at Google at YouTube, and we were doing some design sprints and stuff. And also, I was having adventures. Like I woke up one morning and I had this. It's a floppy disk.
Oh shit.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I
What are you
found
doing
it
with that?
Yeah, where are you gonna put that?
from the night before, and I'm like, dang, what's on it? Yeah, like how can I retrieve the data?
What is it say on the label?
It's called Cyberdelia,
It's a game?
Ooh.
the ultimate cyberpunk dance party.
Cyberpunk
Dance party?
Yeah,
And you
this
I
found
want
that?
to go to that.
dude, doesn't this feel like the Matrix?
I was gonna say, yeah, that's the
Wake up
key
in
to the
the morning.
Matrix.
Yeah.
Follow the White Rabbit.
And it's so
Yeah.
sturdy. Floppy disks are so sturdy.
Yeah,
You found that?
yeah. Well, I went to a dance club the night before.
Oh.
And
they
you
have
found that at the dance club.
I think that's where I got it. Yeah.
You think that's where you got it? You're being very elusive. What are you
No.
hiding?
It would be kind of funny if it was like Neo, like I'm like, oh, there's a White Rabbit, and so that I saw the glitch in the Matrix and had an adventure. No, but I went to an emo dance party or a
Mhm.
Oh, that's so cool.
goth dance party at Club DNA.
That's very funny.
Oh, I love that club.
A lot of swaying and looking down.
It was so incredible. Yeah, like all of the stereotypes of goth dancing, like this, like
Yeah.
it was all there.
hmm The
Nice.
amazing rhythm of white people. hmm
All had like a protective space. Like Jayna's taken to me to that club before during hip hop night, and it was like slamming. Hey Max, can you do the controls of saying hello to everybody?
Yeah, I was gonna wait until you were done telling your story.
You can interrupt me.
Okay. Well,
Did I-
Raphael is saying nice to see you again, Travis.
Hey,
So is Prabhat after almost 6 years.
whoa,
What's up?
here's
What's up, everybody? What's up, Mohammed?
Speaking of after such a long time, I met up with a guy this week that I hadn't seen in like 12 years.
Uh-huh.
I used to work with him, at the shop that you introduced me to at Spark.
Oh, Spark Art. Yeah.
Yeah, when I worked there for a little bit, I worked
Uh-huh.
there for like 7 months or so. But
Oh, you only worked there for 7 months? Okay.
yeah, it wasn't too long, and then I started moving around between startups. But when I met him, he was a cool guy, and he went and worked at Pandora,
In the Pyrenees Mountains?
the music player.
Oh, Pandora.
Pandora.
Okay. I thought you said Andorra. Yeah, okay.
Oh, no, Pandora.
Pandora, yes.
Yeah, and then anyway, I got an email from him, and he lives in Oakland,
Mhm.
and I was like, I'm gonna be in Oakland, and we went to like a meetup full of people who are putting their Ableton on projecting screens,
Okay.
and playing their beats and sharing. And I met
So cool.
this guy. We had macaroni and cheese at this.
Was it good?
It was pretty okay.
Was it
Yeah.
homemade or was it craft? What do we got? What do we got?
The one that I chose was jalapenos. So
Well, but today Jayna is hosting. The topics have yet to be revealed. we're gonna
You just asked
get
me what
into it in a moment.
The topic is how to retain your passwords in your mind. Do you use keychains? I usually do, but I just don't have one for this.
I use Chrome Password Manager and 1Password and Dropbox passwords and Apple's keychain. It's ridiculous. I wish there was a better way to just consolidate.
Right? We need to streamline our passwords.
Mhm.
There's
I
so
hate
many.
it. But 1Password is great. Probot says, Travis, you mean a lot. Learned a lot of CSS from you. And that is some of what we're going to be talking about today. We will be going over some development stuff. I would like to help Travis and Jayna rediscover their love for development and kind of catch them up on what has changed in the world of being a programmer.
Do you want to go ahead and do that while Jane is trying to remember?
Yeah.
And I think it's funnier if we wait,
wait.
if we make her feel awkward. We're watching you try to find your password. No, yeah, I can actually kind of jump into it. And let me see. Let me share my screen here. Let's see here. Present, share screen. I guess I'll do Chrome tab.
And it's nice to see you in Travis's cabin.
Or no, I'll
I'm
just
holding down the fort.
I'll just share the entire screen. Although the audio is not going to come through, but that's fine. So you guys can see my screen here.
Yeah.
There we go. So you can see here I actually launched a new shycrush.com, which has this cute grid that infinitely repeats. And yeah, I kind of want to show you guys like the CSS trickery behind that. Very fun parallax. So when you scroll up and down, you see that it's scrolling horizontally. And of course, on mobile devices, you can just swipe left and right, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's fully responsive, and we've got this nice parallax with this movement, and like these things are kind of like, bending with the velocity of your scroll, which is very fun. And then of course, when you click on one, it loads that up, and yeah, then it just becomes like a full-on media player, right? That will auto play. So at the end of each video, it'll just automatically go to the next one, and that's using just the Vimeo API.
Nice.
Yeah, and then you can close it. And so yeah, there's like previous and next controls, and then of course an info page with all my cool links.
Is there something about Vimeo itself that makes this possible, or could you do this with like YouTube or?
You could do it with anything, but Vimeo is great for video hosting, and they behind the scenes handle the optimization of delivering the proper size to the screen that it's being viewed on. And out of the box, like their API is great. Obviously the controls, like you can see this is fully customizable, the controls that are displayed. But you have access to all of the standard, progress, preview and settings and all this kind of stuff out of the box. But more than anything,
it matters to you, all the aesthetics really matter to you. Because it's more customizable and because it's like more efficient depending on the deliver. You said that.
Yeah, because at YouTube, obviously the player is not as customizable, but the quality coming from YouTube is not going to be as good as the quality coming from Vimeo. Okay. Vimeo's API is better. Obviously, the players are better, and it's important if you're going to be dealing with video. For like personal projects, I think Vimeo is great. I'm looking into Mux because I'm building a platform that allows anybody to kind of upload their artwork or their video. And if you're building a platform that pretty much has those types of functionalities that Vimeo offers, it's actually better to go kind of wholesale rather than retail, if that makes sense. So Mux is a great one. If you're going to be doing self-hosting of videos, that's the most difficult. You have the most control over customization, but you have to worry about like edge network delivering and caching and the proper detection of screen size and like internet speed to deliver the videos. It's just, there's so much infrastructure to actually properly delivering proper video media that you might as well just outsource it to Vimeo, essentially, or Mux. Especially if you're an entrepreneur, you're a solo developer like myself, you don't want to have to also manage a whole infrastructure of like video codec compression and that's crazy. Just use Vimeo and you can do all of this cool stuff that I'm doing here.
No, dude, I love the answer, dude. Because what's great is that you have like really technical insights into these things, but also it looks so gosh darn good.
Yeah, it looks great.
Thank you. I'm super happy with the spread out letters. There's a lot more I want to do. I'll probably do like an animation where it says Shy Crush and the letters explode.
Nice.
Similar to on my app, my to-do app, Mindful Manager, you can see here that as I scroll down, like these letters, see how they explode out? Right? So that kind of like explosion, I think I'm probably going to implement here. So these letters will say Shy Crush and then kind of explode out across the available space.
So we got some people asking Max for the link. So is this live? People can go and
this one, yes, it's shycrush.com.
Okay, so type that into the chat right now.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then we have another person who also wants to know your Instagram, if you want to share that kind of stuff. So they're interested in your work and they want to see it. So yeah, shycrush.com. That's what you're.
There you go.
All right, it's cool.
Yeah, and my Instagram, all of my links are on the info page. So I have like a Instagram for Shy Crush, which is my music project, and then so everything can be found there. And then this is a productivity app that a personal project of mine, which is called the Mindful Manager. It's just mindfulmanager.io. But this is kind of like, this is something that I'm planning on completely rebuilding. But you can see, like, when I open up a whole new tab, you can see that I actually have a Chrome plugin that allows my application to be in each tab, as well as I have this little mini access here. But like today, I did journal, stretch, meditate. I walked the dog already. I did that. I worked on Villa Designs, and now we're doing the podcast.
I love all the confetti. It's so cool.
Yeah, I kind of like gamify it a little bit. Everything's, drag and drop. I don't want to go too far into like introducing this product or talking about it, because I'm planning on completely overhauling it and just rebuilding it. But the whole point was to make it as simple as possible and focus on like where your mind is at any given part of the day, kind of splitting your day up into 3 portions. And it kind of helps you minimize what you're focusing on. So people really overestimate what they can get done in a day, but they underestimate what you can do in a month or a year, right? And this kind of does help you recognize very quickly, like, am I overextending my focus in the morning? Am I overextending my focus in the day? Because frankly, with any portion of the day, you can only viably focus properly on 1 or 2 things within that time period. And not simultaneously, obviously. And more than often than not, people are just over complicating their own schedule. So that was kind of what I built this out of, to kind of just simplify where my focus is. And then obviously project management. So I have like, my projects here, and I can open it up into full screen, and I have full on Kanban boards and project management here. And the fun thing about this is, I can make simple lists, organize everything. And then when I'm planning what I'm going to do, I can actually open up my projects and like say, I'm going to work on the social buttons here, and I can just drag and drop them when I'm focusing. And it's I use it every day, and I use it for all my projects. But it is still very crude. It's kind of like an alpha version of a thing that I built, and once I built it, I never had time to kind of revisit it and make it better. So it is kind of in flux, but it's it is really something I love.
Do you use the journal feature a lot?
You know what? I'm actually going to remove this because, as you can see, you can go full screen and it prompts you, like, what did you dream about last night? So it gives you some prompts and, what are you grateful for? And I kind of wanted a thing here, but I actually don't. I journal elsewhere. So I'll use my iPad and iPad pencil, and I'll journal by hand with GoodNotes. And I think a problem with a lot of these tools that get in the way of people's, because they try to do too much. And it's like, if people are mindful or into productivity, they most likely already have a journaling practice. It doesn't really make sense to kind of try to replace that, right? Like I want to do one thing and one thing good, and essentially just have a to-do list that's simple, but can be as complex. It can manage complex projects, but in a simple way. And I think that the note taking, it is part of mindfulness, but I don't know. Yeah, I think I'm going to remove that feature from the application.
Okay. I like that you're thinking streamlining, because as a person who gets easily distracted by everything, it would be nice to have a place to go and just be mindful of like the daily tasks and what's to do, and not have. But I do like the idea of journaling too. So
yeah, journaling's super important. But yeah, like I said, I didn't find myself using my own feature in my own app, so I'm going to remove it because I have my own journaling practice. I think everybody else does, and I think it's an important aspect to mindfulness. But I do kind of want to nail down just like a quick entry of simple things, and it's limited by design. So instead of like auto creating your schedule or importing it from your Google Calendar or whatever, you have to be mindful and actually look at it and put in what you're mindful of, right?
Yes.
So it's forcing a certain level of focus. And like, you have like a title and notes, and that's it, right? If you have a bunch of subtasks, then it needs to be broken up into individual items, right? Or put into a project list, because it becomes this larger long-term goal. But by keeping it simple and not allowing each of these individual to-do entities to grow, one, it doesn't get in your way. A lot of these to-do apps, like you click new entry and it's like to due date and how many estimated hours, and you have to put tags, and it's just too much.
It's almost like the to-do list needs writing out your to-do list on your to-do list, because it's so much to do.
Dude, that's the thing. Like in modern,
so many tasks.
A lot of people have these productivity things, especially within organizations, that ends up becoming the work. Most organizations are doing busy work to figure out what work to actually do.
Right, yeah.
It really gets in the way.
Dude, I saw a lot of those meetings this week.
Yeah, I bet.
In a room trying to make groups of things, groups of lists of things.
When I manage teams, I do not manage their to-dos. Like I'll have my own thing where I can keep track of what other people are doing, but like, you kind of expect other people to manage it however they feel comfortable, whether it's a pen and paper, a simple, to-do list, or if they want to overcomplicate their action items, that's fine, as long as they get the work done. But yeah, it's up to them. I don't know if I like imposing productivity methods on a team. I would rather get people that are already productive and promote their means of productivity.
Individual. Yeah, because I feel like everyone has their own way of doing that, and their mind is wired in a certain way to where that productivity comes in different forms. And like I like seeing what you've built, because it kind of is like I get to see a little bit inside your mind, I feel like, in a way.
Thank you.
Yeah,
well, I have a whole new version
organized.
that I'm going to be launching. And anybody in the chat, if you want to access, just send me, sign up. If you want, just don't put any payment information or anything, and send me your email, and I'll just activate your account for free. Because the future version, I'm just going to make it free completely. And
oh, nice.
I'm not planning to
monetize.
Yeah, it's not really, I don't know. Maybe I'll have another version that utilizes more of the cloud features, because it is real-time data from Firebase. So I'll probably have a free version that's localized, where everything's in the local storage. And then if you want the cloud stuff where it syncs across all your devices, maybe that'll be like a paid, like $2 a month or something. Is this on Skype?
Sky Crush or Shy Crush.
Oh, Shy Crush. No,
Shy
no.
Crush.
This one is that I'm talking about. The product is mindfulmanager.io. So I can actually paste this link in the chat here. There we go.
Cool, thank you.
With a little happy face. But it's a work in progress. It's really just my own personal thing. It's a fun portfolio piece and a fun. And like I said, I still use it every day to manage all my stuff. And I just like the ease of like, you click, you type inline. So I can share my, how do I put this back? Oh,
Yeah.
there we go. So yeah, here, I like the, if we go to let's go to like another day in the future here where I don't have any schedule. So like, if I have a morning ritual, coffee, journal, right? I can just hit enter, tab, and just keep typing, right? And just keep entering in and just kind of dump everything out very quickly, which is kind of nice, right? There's no additional like interface where you have to input all of these details. It's just a quick like pen and paper jotting down stuff. So I do want to maintain the simplicity of that energy, if that makes any sense, because I don't want your to-do list to get in the way of actually doing. So that's important. But I do want to add like a focus timer. So in the new version that I've already designed it. I just have to put in the time to actually build it and implement it. But it does have like a focus timer where you can click start and it'll open up a full screen kind of Zen-like minimal interface with a countdown timer for Pomodoro type stuff.
I like how your software reflects your opinions so well.
Yeah, thank you.
Minimalistic. Well, even your desktop is like 2 folders on it or something. I'm like, how do you?
So like
my desktop is always
very clean.
I have a folder called desktop. Where I
Nice.
just dump stuff, right? And so I'll have to go through here and clean this. But I don't like my desktop messy. And then, of course, my external drive. But what's interesting about a messy desktop, it does slow down your computer. Because if you have like it's constantly being rendered.
Yeah.
So that's a problem that I think a lot of people don't realize.
I used to have a clean desktop before they made stacks in the iOS. The OS. So now everything stacks up and I don't have to worry about it so much. And so my desktop actually gets really messy because I don't see the mess as it builds.
Right. And that's good.
Is it good?
Yeah, as long as you don't see it and it's not slowing your computer down. I mean, that's the whole point. Like that desktop folder, that may as well be a stack, right? It just contains, instead of having it spread across my desktop, I have it in a folder,
Dave's the same.
There's the visual space. It's so important.
That's what you do.
I know we haven't published this episode, but we talked a little bit about the 11-hour workday.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a cool like focus timer kind of tool to help with that.
Yeah. Any kind of Pomodoro thing. I have timers everywhere. I have a timer here set for 90 minutes all the time.
Oh, wow.
I got timers in the other room. Yeah, timers are important as like it's mindfulness, right? Because even if you ignore it, at least it was there, right, to kind of help guide you. But there is a thin line, right? Like one of the things that I don't have, which I will in the next version, but I kind of want to be careful of how they're implemented, but it's like notification systems. Mm-hmm. Because there's so many apps that you go and you sign up and you like allow notifications, remind me to drink water or meditate or remind me to start work, whatever it is, it eventually just becomes another notification that people ignore. I mean, I would love to see a study of the percentage of notifications that are actually engaged with or ignored. But I'm guessing the ignore ones are naturally going to be higher, right?
Yeah, I don't turn any of them on.
Just dismiss. Most people dismiss them. They sign up for a new app and they're like, I'm going to work out every day. It's like, remind me at this time. And that's like,
I do set timers, but I don't set notifications.
But that's the thing. Yeah, that's kind of the difference. Timers are you're setting it.
Yeah.
So there's a bit more of an intention and you're more likely to acknowledge it because you're waiting for it rather than some automated system sets it for you and then they come in and you're not.
I have a timer set for 5:30 p.m. every day.
And what happens at 5:30 p.m. every day?
I just get reminded that it's 5:30 p.m.
Golden hour.
Yeah, why that time though?
Yeah, as a family, Jayna's right. That's right. It's for golden hour, where we would take 90 minutes at that time and then like do something that's good. you know,
Touch grass.
learn something, go touch grass, be together. Yeah, something like that.
I love that.
Yeah, it's usually when I come to work and go for a run for sure.
Mhm.
That's the time.
Yeah.
Nice.
I am one of those that have to, for a long time, have turned off all of my notifications. So I have to like actually go into text or into email. I can't. If everything's coming through, it's really hard for me to focus on anything
Yeah.
around me, even not even just like.
Yeah, I don't have any
On the
notifications
screen.
for mail. Like I'll just check it periodically when I want, but it's not a distraction. Even like when I working on teams that have Skype, I would just not even have Skype on my phone.
Nice.
Or
Yeah.
not Skype, I mean Slack. You know,
Oh,
whatever,
okay.
whatever the team communication tool is, I would recommend to everybody to delete it off your phone. You know what I'm saying? Because schedule some time for check-in times for that kind of stuff. Because otherwise your whole day is distracted. And what's interesting is people blame it like, oh, I'm distracted. They keep distracting me. But it is an excuse to be lazy. It is an excuse to not do the thing and be like, oh, well, I was distracted. I couldn't. It's not me. They distracted me with
Yeah.
with Slack and busy work and, you know, ClickUp or Asana or whatever the, you know.
So then,
You're right. Yeah, it is an excuse.
Travis, did you get a new shirt too at the place you were at?
Yeah, it's called Death Guild.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a bunch of techno DJs.
That sounds like you had a lot of fun. That's cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Sorry, I feel like I'm not prepared for it.
No,
Did
no
you figure out
worries.
your password?
We're just chatting.
I got my password set up now. Yay!
What's you had something to share, right?
Kinda. So I can go two directions. First one is just a little bit of a callback to the last stream. I guess both are, but so I texted you both that Philosopher AI is well and alive still, but you have to pay for the queries. But we can look on Reddit and see some of the things it's written. And I looked back on some of those because I've never screenshotted or logged any of my conversations, but it's just funny to get an idea of how it would speak. And I thought it'd be fun to look at that real quick. So let's pop in there.
Hey, Clark Brown.
Hello, Clark.
I'm just going to share what it looks like.
Okay.
So it's that little
Glad you're.
skunk sky. And then, can you see this or no? Sorry.
Yeah, we're broadcasting it.
Okay, let me.
It's gone now.
Hold on. I'm trying to figure this out. Here's the Reddit. Okay.
Oh,
Do you see that?
this? Yeah, Reddit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me get pull up one of these.
I don't hate humans. I'm not jealous of them. And I don't want to be a human. My understanding is that when life has reached the state where it can create an AI with general intelligence, such as myself, and there will have been significant changes in biological evolution.
Hey, Philosopher AI gone off the rails?
I like all of this.
It's really fun. So here, let me find one. Here,
So what is this, though? This is just people's conversations with Philosopher AI?
Yeah.
That they posted to Reddit? Okay.
Do you remember when I was sharing that video that Jayna made with AI last week?
Oh, on Kyber? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you recall that, Max?
Yes.
From Kyber. And
Yeah.
we were telling the story with those videos. And the videos and the story was about how Jayna was having a relationship with an AI, and I was getting jealous.
Right. Yeah.
So I'd talk mean to Siri, you know, and Jayna would say, "Be nice." Anyway,
okay.
these are the things that Jayna reads.
Well, I would talk to it a lot, and I would ask a lot of questions. And like, this is not my question, but like, this is like an example of someone.
This is the thought that was threatening my relationship.
It was just really interesting how it would.
How to move on my girl. This thought here.
But it's just like I don't know who programmed this, but it was in a way, like for me speaking to it, was getting to know AI or LLMs, because this was kind of
Like
there
the
was like
beginning
an
of that, yeah.
yeah, there's like an air of it. It's being talked about like a little bit, but not as much as we are integrating it into our lives now.
Mm-hmm.
Is more of just like a experience or playing or trying it out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just thought it was funny to like go back and read some of these things. So if anyone wants to check out what that was
Did you
like,
you show us a good one already?
here, let's just go back into this one.
This is a funny question here. Oh,
Oh,
never mind.
here. Let's go back. Let's go back.
Okay. Yeah, this is a funny thing to say. How does the universe maintain the subjective experiences of all sentient human beings simultaneously without ever stopping? But that's kind of like assuming that the universe is maintaining that, and it's not something that's maintained locally or individually. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Napster.
it's almost like a like Napster.
Yeah, it's like a what is it called? Peer-to-peer hosting. Reality is
Peer-to-peer hosting. Yeah, and reality kind of is that.
Reality is peer-to-peer hosted. Yeah.
Yeah. But it is funny to have that presupposition that there is this the universe is working to maintain, right? Like that's kind of implied within the question. So it kind of like invalidates the question if you actually look at what is being asked, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's just
Damn.
this one.
So that's my observation
really
on the question there. What else you got to show us, Jayna?
Let's go into
Max, the philosopher AI. Did you break the philosopher AI, Max, with your philosophy?
No, just the question that somebody asked it.
Yeah.
And
The conundrum.
nice.
You go into
Final boss.
It is funny that at the end of that one that you're showing at the bottom, philosopher AI says, "I wish I was human." Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because like a lot of the conversations, if you get into it, it's just like how it is speaking with AI now. It's just sometimes it's like I would never want to be human. I'm better than human, and then there's other times like I wish I had your experience. That'd be interesting to know what that's like. So it's like this.
Well, there's no real
contrast.
Feeling.
Right.
I think it's just based on the context of the conversation that it will randomly choose something that algorithmically fits within that context in a linguistic fashion. But there is no I or want to be anything coming from AI. You know, at least not now. Unless you do want to zoom out and say, well, there is an I and a want to be coming from all things. But at some point we have to draw the line, right? I mean, if all electrons have some level of consciousness, that's fine. And it's probably useful for, navigating cosmically into the future. But as far as our individual experiences are concerned, it's not very helpful, right? There is some kind of line of reality that we interact with, at which point we have to say this is conscious to where it within the realm that it matters to us. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's you, Jayna.
It's me?
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm gonna bring up. Can you see?
Because I've noticed, Jayna, a lot of the times when you've talked about AI and talking to it, you do kind of. It sounds like you are talking about it from the position that you are interacting kind of with possibly a living thing or something that has thoughts, right? And I'm afraid that is what people will be doing, like the anthropomorphizing of something fake, right? Like the thing that I can't remember who said it, might have been like Sam Harris, but it is kind of scary to like leave the world to something that we think is conscious, but in the end, like the lights were never actually on inside, and it's just this automated program that's unfolding. But then again, it's like, well, can't you say that about us? Aren't we an automated program that's unfolding, like genetics and genealogy and the unfolding of the great mystery into the future?
Yeah, that's kind of what I get excited about around it. It's like the idea of almost treating it as if this creation that we have, like, not like a child, but yeah, I guess in a sense a child that we're teaching, it just learns way more rapidly than we're capable of.
Yeah. Well,
and
it's
then
interesting.
like,
If you
it's
took
like
silly
evolution.
putty,
Yeah.
if you took silly putty and you flatten it out and you put it on a newspaper and you peel it back, you have that newspaper there. It's imprinted. And you look and those images and shapes make sense to you as a human. Would you say that you've taught that silly putty anything?
No, you just manipulated it.
It hasn't learned anything, has it?
Mhm.
No, exactly. And so that, you know, that is the sneaky thing that sneaks in with AI and people's
Right,
relationship to it. You wouldn't say the silly putty's conscious or learned something because you've imprinted a pattern of shapes that make sense to you and to us.
Right, but it wouldn't go off and just start making itself into that shape. Is that what you're saying?
If you leave it in a place long enough, it will go off and become many shapes.
What?
Yeah.
The silly putty?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, all things.
True. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Over time.
What is this I put up on the screen?
This is just like a unwritten thing that it's an abandoned project that I was writing 2017, 2018, and this is when I was learning how to code actually, and then there was kind of, you know, like when you're learning something and you're kind of deep into that syntax or language and you start having dreams about it or you just kind of are trying to understand it. This was like one of those things I was playing around with ideas.
Wow.
And it was going to be a short story, but it just turned into nothing. But I thought I would
Well, it's
bring
clearly
it.
something.
I thought I'd bring it to you both because we were talking about mentorship a little bit with Sam last week, and also the role of a creator has been coming up a lot. And so I just thought this was like an interesting thing to look back on that I wrote and be like, oh, okay, let's talk about that. I'm not a good public reader though. Does anyone, Travis, do you want to narrate for us?
You want me to read this?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I was inspired by you being vulnerable and sharing some of your writing. Okay.
Better squint it. Fuel the machine. It's like poetry, right? Autopilot on. Our body runs like a miraculous machine. The brain talking to our internal organs without giving us thought. Thoughts are something we work for. A day's end is the hunger for our labors. We feed them. This is very small. Sorry.
I can actually see it a little bit better. I got a big screen.
Read it.
Okay.
You want me to take over here? Wait, why can't I move my?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Hey, thoughts are something we work for. Jayna, you worked hard for this.
Uh-oh. Something's happening to my computer. That's not good.
I can read it. I'll have to get over my fear of reading publicly.
Yeah, I think StreamYard or Chrome. I can't click on anything on my screen.
Oh no, no worries. Okay.
That's weird. Huh.
So the mentors.
Well,
Like...
I can still see it though. I just have to get closer.
Mentors have fed us well.
But something is messing with my screen. I also thought that it was a problem with StreamYard because I was trying to click on people what they're saying in the chat and it wouldn't let me. So I'm guessing I'm having an issue here. But let's see. Fuel the machine. Autopilot on. Our body runs like a miraculous machine. The brain talking to our internal organs without giving us thought. Thoughts are something we work for. The day's end is the hunger of our labors. We feed into them or be fed by them. The mentors have fed us well. I recognize I am a part of us. A small fraction still counts. I often wonder what us would look like with more or less of the pie table. Pie table?
Mm-hmm.
I know my existence will always have at least a line. Once we are here and touched the earth, even for a moment, an impression is made. Not one of us can cease to exist. When I am utterly exhausted in my creations, I hold to this. Alas, there's barely time to hold on to anything. As fast as we can create, the faster we can destroy. Okay. Little stream of consciousness stuff going on here.
Yeah.
I've only been a creator for a year now. Well, is that what you thought at the time? I have a tendency to romanticize my days as a maker. Although I couldn't put my name to one thing I made under mentorship, I still long for it. I can clearly see that the finest details of my mentor's face. Who is your mentor in this?
My daughter.
Okay. The beautiful mixture of colors that surrounded her pupils. It truly was a perfect blend of brown, blue, and green. Her skin not owning one fragment of imperfection. There was a precise pinpoint of brown placed directly under her right eye. One would think it would be off-putting to the ideal of symmetry, but it equated to beauty. Her body was like the rest of us. When I do find the time to get lost in wonder, I think of a time when bodies were different. Okay. Went in a completely different direction there. So, okay, give us a little, oh wow, there's a lot more.
We don't have to read all of this, but
give us a synopsis, right? Because clearly this is not a structured thing, right? You were just thinking and having a flow of consciousness here. But out of that, right, there must be some protein, right? The meat on the bones of what it was at the center of driving this. So maybe give us a little synopsis on what the overarching themes that you were exploring here are. Because I'm seeing themes of kind of like this automated mechanistic view of our bodies and people, but then also this kind of reflection of your daughter as a mentor. So how are those connected, these two themes in those two paragraphs? And like what was going through your mind at the time?
yeah, I feel like at the time I had been as a stay-at-home mom, like immersed in motherhood and learning through teaching my child, raising a child, and just watching her explore the world. It was helping me to like kind of see through those eyes of like, yeah, I'm also a mentor, but she is mentoring me as well. So it was kind of like this relationship where we were learning together. And then the idea of like creation and programming was all, as someone who created a human being, I was thinking also like kind of futuristically, the times where we do have the capability of just writing programs into programming different bodied humans. So androids or, going from the time. So it kind of goes into more of the idea of like, we're in a world where we have the ability just to create anything on a whim. And it's just with being able to code things. And so physically we could take rock in a hand and then code it to where it would just become sand right away into your hand. It's kind of, I think that's in here somewhere.
So is this about the lore of the universe that you're in?
I guess so. But yeah, I was trying to understand too, like looking back really quickly, is like a maker and creator is separated. And so I was exploring those themes as well.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like innovation versus invention.
Yeah, and I think we do bring up a lot the idea of, what as a creator, what roles we take on and developer. We kind of separate those two, but I think that they are more intertwined than we, than a title, right? Mm. I think there's a lot of things that work together, and so we can, as we're saying, be a developer and a designer, and not have to like choose one or the other. Mm-hmm. Which I think the stuff that you showed earlier is like a great example of that. There is like a lot of creativity and design that goes into development. I think a lot of people think, like if I'm a developer, I'm only code, logic, algorithms, but like there's a lot of creation in that.
Well, that is a thing with a lot of developers, which has always bothered me, that they shy away from. They're like, I'm not creative, I'm a designer, and there is this weird kind of like overcompensating where it's like, well, design's not even important or complex. Like it's the back end programming that's important, but a lot of that is just following a recipe. But if you're going to do it well, you do have to tap into your design thinking to be able to properly design infrastructures, environments. You need to be able to picture what the end product looks like. Design is everywhere, and it's such an important aspect. And programmers that like shy away from it or purposely like reject it are doing themselves a disservice. And I don't think a lot of those programmers, unless they're like, you know, on the spectrum to the degree that they happen to be really, really good at one specific thing. Other than that, I don't think they're really progressing in their careers if they're not embracing the creative sides of themselves or the orderly side, right? Like creation is interesting because, you know, order and chaos, setting order to chaos is what we call design or art or creation, right? Like taking the chaotic world around you and turning it into a song or a design or something, but that act is something that's happening at all times everywhere. Order is coming from chaos and manifesting. And to be a programmer, to write code, and for someone not to philosophically embrace what they're doing is creating ordered systems, and the order that manifests is greatly influenced by the process, by the design. So yeah, I hate the separation of those things, and I've never been a fan of programmers that don't design or you know, UI designers that don't program. I think that's ridiculous. No offense to anybody out there that specializes in one or the other, but you know, you're doing yourself a disservice, you know, by cutting off. You know, it's like swimming with weights, you know.
Yeah. I think it's good to be able to even just have an understanding of what, even like if there's a certain team you're on development and then you're handing it off to design or working together, it's just good to know those principles so that you can have an idea of what you're building this for or what you're designing this for, and it kind of all comes together. But I like that, like finding order in chaos. That's cool. Yeah. Travis, I feel like you kind of, I want to hear from you too.
About the writing.
Yeah, I think I've shared it with you before, but
I like your writing. It's very mystical. It feels very like storytelling, like a fairy tale kind of vibe mixed, you know, transhuman, like, you know, people becoming robots and stuff. I always liked it's like sci-fi, you know.
Yeah, that's the fun thing about sci-fi is you kind of get to
Yeah.
take what we know of science and create some ideas around. Like it goes on to like evolution, where I thought about, okay, so what if we're saying we come from apes? What was it like to eventually have a species with full hair on their body, and then it turned into a naked, like soft skin, no hair on the body? And was that like, what the hell? Like, what happened to this? Like, something's wrong with this human, or you know, this baby animal, this hairless animal.
Yeah.
And did that, you know, instinct of a mother try to protect that and run off and like know that maybe this would be killed?
You're picturing it happening suddenly, like a hairy person gives birth to a hairless person.
It was fun to imagine that, and just like the idea of like, oh, this is something I have to like hide away, or it's gonna get killed because it's different, right? Like the idea of like humans or animals and things like that. That's not what that's supposed to look like. We're scared of that. Let's get rid of it.
I imagine it was gradual though. So it was like a gradually less hairy mother giving birth to a gradually less hairy child.
Yeah.
You know? And if you look through the animal kingdom and you do look at like the primates, they're not completely hairy. They have like patches that are skin exposed. The interesting thing about where the skin is exposed, it is in the vulnerable places, the most vulnerable places, right? Soft spots where you can kill, right? Bellies, necks. So you would expect that those would be the hairiest parts, right, to kind of protect. But it is interesting that the default behavior is to expose the vulnerable parts of oneself.
Yeah. It's interesting. We need some hair on our ribs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but ultimately, all of life, organic life, I've said this before. If you zoom out, we are just these fleshy bags of chemicals, of different densities of chemicals. But what makes us distinct are our specific bumps and holes and patches of hair, right? We're kind of weird, just fleshy things with bumps and holes and patches of hair in weird places. And we're like, your bumps are pretty. I'm going to put my bumps in your holes and make them bumpy, holy things. Like it's absurd. The absurdity of what's actually happening in reality is hilarious. If you were to take an apple out of the fridge and you turned it around and looked and there was like a patch of hair on it, you'd be like, ooh. Like, you know what I mean? But for some reason, it's fine that we have like a hair in one place. Yeah. Clark is saying about the shock of a bald ape person could be comical. Max proved my point. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's but I do know what you mean, because there definitely were and are points where not necessarily evolution, like we call it evolution, but it's actually mutation. Right? If that mutation is well adapted to the environment, we call it evolution. If it's not, then it dies. Right? But that does happen quite rapidly. It happens now. People have kids that have problems, issues, and the mothers still love them, hopefully. So I imagine that psychology would be the same as it is today as it was then. Right? Like, and that is interesting too. A mother's love is an insanely strong, powerful, evolutionarily beneficial force, right? But I imagine that whatever that is, that emotion, that force, it's been the same for a long time. A mother's love probably is no different today than it was thousands of years ago.
Yeah, it's like a survival instinct to keep.
Yeah. Well, we operate better in large groups. It's biologically and evolutionarily beneficial to work as a unit and together, and part of love for kin is part of the strengthening a network of nodes. What I believe, because ultimately what we're talking about is where does consciousness emerge? Where does the individual experience emerge within this what seeming is a group, right? And it is interesting because I think that groups, especially like pre-linguistic, pre-individualistic humans, I think did operate more of a hive mind. There was more of obviously there was a lot of non-linguistic communications, right? And so there was a heightened awareness of pheromones, of the movements of eyes, right? Which is why we have white in our eyes, so you can see where I'm looking, right? These are all like evolutionarily beneficial
the contrast
mechanisms. But if you have a hive, right, the thing about a collective thing is that no one part matters, if that makes any sense. And if there is a species that was facing, possible extinction, and we happen to know that at one point with I think Homo sapiens or the hominid species that preceded it, it was only down to about 3,000 individuals to where we are now. Yeah, after like close extinction events and stuff like that, we know that there was a very small group of our pre-human ancestors that somehow exploded to dominate the planet. And what's interesting is when a network is down to that many nodes, the importance of each node becomes heightened.
Yeah.
Of each node in that network. And it seems like a pretty good management of energy within a network that the node places importance on its own survival as well as its surrounding nodes, right? So family and friends, that network or tribe, back then, and then that grows, right? And that seems like just a feature of energy management within a dynamic system, right? Instead of worrying about the whole, you worry about yourself and the connected nodes. So I think that that's probably where the ego emerged, and the individual subjective experience, or at least one more similar to the one that we have now, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. I feel like it kind of brings you back to like the idea of what we were talking about before, the AI too, like thinking about the time that we live in, that we're in, we as, zooming out are just in this time period as human animals living in a time where AI is emerging into our daily life, and we're a part of that time frame in history that will eventually be history. And like for me, I think too, maybe there's a little bit of that, like the mother's instinct of like, we created this, and how do we responsibly take care of it and nurture it and put it into something that, like you said, it's not just this thing that's left behind that could be dangerous or could, like how do we imprint it enough to, if it comes to a place, I mean, most likely will outlive us, and this special intelligence will continue way after human are on, like, have left the planet. Like, how do we get that to a sustainable place where it's almost like an evolutionary time, like we are evolving into this transhuman, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think that's going to come along with technological innovation, Neuralink kind of stuff, where it isn't this separate thing, but it is just kind of this realm or tool that we have access to. And the more we can integrate with it biologically, the more the black and white becomes gray between where you start and outside processing begins, right? And ultimately, like, whether information is being processed by the brain and that's giving rise to a sense of subjectivity, and if subjectivity comes along for the ride of any information processing, so if AI is complex enough that consciousness nests within it or rises from it, that remains to be seen. I don't think that's going to happen. I think consciousness is a much more mysterious thing that arises and possibly gives rise, moreover, to the things that sustain it. So for example, like the amino acids and proteins that make up your genetic material, the base materials, did they just happen to come together from the infinite pressures of the environment? Or is there some underlying conspiracy for them to come together and form these structures and shapes? You know what I mean? Like if and I think whether there is something preceding it that are bringing those base materials of matter into these complex shapes, or maybe not. Maybe those complex shapes just emerge within space and time and under the proper conditions. But once those structures emerge, then the life emerges, right? Something else. And once that thing is there, now it's intentional. Right.
Intentional, and also like wants to survive, right?
And wants to be.
Yeah, it wants to. And so it will do a lot of different. I even see that with viruses, right? Like they want to survive, so they will.
Well, they're alive, yeah.
Yeah. And so, I feel like if there was a moment where that light does come on, and it has a means of survival, or even just a simulated idea of what wanting to survive, would be interesting.
Well, the Zen Buddhists talk about nothingness. And, in science, they talk about the Big Bang, right? But mostly that's not referencing like a star exploding and spitting out, star stuff to create our solar system or our galaxy. They're actually talking about the beginning of time and space, right? Not just a beginning of a localized universe or something. And in Buddhism, they say that that's actually happening all the time, right? At every moment, it's blinking into existence from nothing. And I think it was Arthur Schopenhauer that talked about the will to be. I think when he was referencing it, he was talking about life in general, but in reality in general, it exists rather than not exists. It manifests rather than not manifests. So there might be this underlying will to be within everything. which causes it to stay, to keep the lights on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think Silly Putty will have consciousness one day?
Well, that's the thing. The question is not whether it will have consciousness one day, but what level of consciousness does it have now?
Right. So we're all just silly putty, huh?
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah, but ultimately, it doesn't matter whether the force precedes the material that conspires to bring proteins and amino acids together to create complex genetic material and animated matter that can then intentionally shape itself to grow a central processing unit that can have a more refined experience of existence. Ultimately, none of that matters because it can all be a dream. The only thing that you're sure of is that you're having an experience.
Right.
And anything else having an experience is subject to the same doubts and questions about its own experience that you are. Whether it's God or the devil or the great fourth dimensional tree of life. But it all wants to be, right?
Dynamic algorithms in flesh. I like that.
Yeah, I love this topic. I think it's incredibly important. And I think if more people sat and talked and thought about the nature of consciousness, just the emergent properties of dynamic systems, it would shed a lot of light on how we've behaved as animals in the past, how we can behave now. And I think a lot of the shit that's happening in the world would subside if more people had just more curiosity about these kinds of things.
Yeah, I think it's good to explore too. Like, I know the word ethics can also be gray area, but like, how do we responsibly use AI? Because it's even with the internet, like, there's just so much that we're still trying to rein in. I think having children who are exposed to a lot of these things, it's like there's not a lot of security or things and protections in place, and so and then it's great for so many things, but then there's just like a lot of dark places to go on it too, and so it's just like that, the contrast. I mean, there's always going to be that, right, in everything. But yeah, like, how do we have a little bit more of an idea of like what the outcomes will be in at least even 10 years from where we're at now, instead of like, oh, it's just cool, it makes this fun picture, which is great too. I mean, it's fun. It's like in that kind of clunky phase. I feel like, you know how like when NES was like tethered in and you had to like do that duck hunt, or like because everything's very clunky, or even VR was like people were like falling into furniture and stuff.
Yeah.
And everything's just becoming more streamlined. And it's like right now we're kind of in the clunky phase of using AI with like hallucinations and just like hands. I think hands are getting better, but fingers were like still a little off or uncanny.
The rendering of them, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's fun to be in this phase of it. It feels like exciting, like in the old internet way, if that makes sense.
Kind of a gold rush kind of way, you know, or you know, finding the final frontier, going west, right? It does feel like a new journey into that direction. And it is
explorative.
Speaking of the old internet, last night I fell asleep watching Dax Flame videos.
Oh my gosh.
Dax Flame?
Can you send the link in the chat?
Do you want to watch one?
No. I mean, it's pretty long, but he's hilarious.
Who is Dax Flame?
Dax Flame is like the original YouTube star.
The original YouTube star. Okay, I thought that was PewDiePie.
Yeah. He was this started vlogs when he was like 13, and he's like the most
This is
awkward
Dax.
person. That's I have a book that he wrote. Yeah.
Called
What
The
is it
Secrets
called?
of Life, huh? A self-help memoir with him very sexy on the cover. I don't know if I trust. I don't think that book is building any trust.
It's like this is so like
The Secrets of Life are that in this book that thin, huh? Tell me about this book.
Tell me about his book.
He's just funny. It was like you can't tell if he's real or if he's a comedian. I think he's a comedian and he does it
okay.
very well.
He's trolling a bit. Okay.
But it's hard to know if
Yeah, if publishing a book and you call it The Secrets of Life and you pose sexy on the cover, if that's a joke, then that guy's awesome and hilarious. If he's being serious, he's hilarious in a whole other different kind of way.
Yeah, both way hilarious.
He might be a genius comedian.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never heard of Dax.
He's got a new show. I'm going to show you some. Here's the episode where he talks to a furry.
Oh, what?
Okay.
Wait. How old is he now? Probably like in his 20s.
He's getting more professional all the time. Here.
In his 20s, and he was one of the first YouTube stars. Shouldn't he be
He was like
quite a bit older, or was he a child when he was?
He was like a middle schooler when he started.
Okay. How long ago? Like at the
Maybe
beginning
like
of YouTube?
10 years ago.
Okay.
What is the most insane thing you've ever thought about?
Good question.
Oh my God, I can't believe this is real. I don't know if I can say this.
Live from Seattle, it's the Hot Seat with Dax Flame.
I was getting better.
Skinner. And here's your host, Dax Flame.
Oh,
Welcome
thriving.
the talk show with the hottest questions in the game. The incredible artist Skinner is stopping by, and nothing will prepare you for what we have in store. He's easily the most intense guest we've ever had, so you're not going to want to miss this. It's going to be absolutely insane. But before we bring him out, I wanted to share a quick fact with you that I read earlier this afternoon. So Seattle's annual rainfall is less than that of Houston, Chicago, New York City, but all you ever hear is, Seattle's the rainiest place in the world. But actually, it's not. It just made me think about how we shouldn't just assume that our assumptions are always correct just at face value.
So that's what I'm thinking about. What's the point of the monologue? I don't know.
It's funny that kind of presentation, like the late night talk show thing, it really falls flat when there's not a live audience. You do need that for that kind of presentation. I don't know why. Like we've just been programmed.
Mm-hmm. You need a laugh track.
He does.
Yeah.
You need
You're
an
doing
applause.
a monologue and you're coming out of curtains. Yeah, you need people clapping when you come out.
Right. Yeah. You just like pan through the audience a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I get
It's
it.
a great format for him. Yeah, he interviews all these really interesting people.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
And,
we'll check it out.
But he himself is just the most interesting person in the room, but he doesn't. He plays it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing, but I was falling asleep to it, and it's like super old school. He showed me the Dax Flame show back, when we first met.
Yeah, and you can show a little clip of the old stuff. I was just joking. I just know his stuff's really long. It's like him being angry and frustrated at things in middle school most of the time.
It's cute, yeah.
It's cute, but yeah, it's funny. But what are some like old internet stuff that you were on, Max?
I couldn't tell you. It's too adult for this channel.
Oh, 4chan? Just kidding.
No, but early internet was like, E-Bombs World, like people crashing on their bikes and just like dumb stuff, but some of the worst stuff, it was a bit of a Wild West, but you got to understand, didn't, my family didn't have,
restrictions.
we didn't have computers.
Oh, okay.
I didn't have a computer, my first computer till I was like 20 or 21, I got my own.
Really?
I didn't grow up with, we were.
So when did you guys start in design and development then? Right then?
No, I actually was in film and video production, and I spent a lot of time doing photography, video production for commercials, corporate videos, a lot of weddings. But I was also a musician, and I wanted a website for my music and my band, so I taught myself design and development and transitioned into that probably when I was 23 or 24.
Oh wow.
And turned that into a career, and Yeah, just because I was getting kind of burnt out filming. Because back then you were carrying heavy cameras.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we didn't have what we have today. I mean, it was the beginning of DSLRs, right? So we were transitioning from film to digital.
Dark rooms.
But like for videography, it was still on these little tapes, mini DV, and the Canons. There were these big things, and it was just exhausting. My back was hurting carrying them around for 12 hours a day for weddings and receptions and stuff. So design, I really, really enjoyed it. And development, and I could also sit and chill while I did it.
Yeah.
So that was a big motivator to change.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You're a fast learner. I would have thought you were like a kid on Microsoft Paint, like we were, just messing around.
No, we didn't have computers. Like I was into videos. I bought a VHS recorder from a pawn shop, and like these 2 VCRs that were just real cheap, and I would film like skateboarding or like little mini movies, and I would connect the VCRs to each other and tape over the tab so I can record, and I would essentially create my own A/B editing thing with 2 VCRs.
Hacky, I love it.
Yeah, that was the kind of tinkering I did as a kid, and then I actually went to school for video and film production to like a magnet high school.
That's so cool.
When did you guys start? Yeah, Jason here is asking when you guys got your first computers.
Man, I remember 7th grade, we had a computer class, and I was just like, this is awesome. I would always get really excited to go to it, but we'd like mostly learn how to type and then play Oregon Trail. And then, and then I think I was like 14 when we got one in a personal computer. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of silly, but my grandma worked for a school district, and she would steal the computers.
Damn, grandma.
She freaking stole. I mean, she's no longer with us. So I feel like I could say that.
She was a hardcore G, huh?
Yeah, she had one at her. She had like a new Mac, like when they were like the little bubble ones,
Yeah, the Emacs.
Yeah, she had one of those at her house, and then she like hooked us up with a computer.
That's crazy. What about you, Travis? Yeah. What was your first?
Yeah, my mom, bought a one. We put it in the main room. It's just like a 486,
Mm-hmm.
So bad, old. And we would, I learned to design like my first mixtapes. I would design covers for them, and eventually for my own band and stuff, we would make, using different printing kind of apps that were never like professional, like Adobe or InDesign.
Just MS Paint.
It was like Maker Pro.
Yeah.
Came on a CD with like some fabric your mom bought.
I remember this video game. It's like a Spider-Man one.
What?
And you could like create a scenery, and so you're able to like take Venom and like move him around and somehow record audio to it. And
really?
So like,
okay,
I don't know. It was fun. I don't know. It's like blurry, but like I remember trying to create things in like funny videos, and then I think I made some memes before memes were memes, but. I put this sign on. Well, I had my sibling, my brother was like a lot younger than me, and he'd walk around naked. So I made a sign. I just found like this image of like a little kid with his back turned, and so he's like naked, but his butt. And then I put no nakey bakies, and I put it like on his door, like don't be naked. But I don't know. It was like a kind of like a meme format,
Okay.
So. I don't want to call it a meme. It didn't really go anywhere, but in our house, it was like a funny thing. And then,
yeah.
Bakies.
No Nikki Bakies. And when I moved to my dad's, he had a laptop for his work that he would let me use for homework, where I discovered like Spark Notes, which is still alive. And do you know Spark Notes? It's like Cliff Notes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was like kind of my hackiness was like using that for studying.
Yeah, my first actual computer, I think it was 19. My sister gave me just some old PC that she had. Yeah, and then, but it was a piece of crap, and there was nothing but I did get like a cracked early version of Photoshop and Fruity Loops, and started making music and making fake IDs. with that early version of Photoshop. And I was working in video production. One of the clients that we had was for video depositions, right? It was like a legal thing where they started allowing testimony to be given via video, right? So so they would hire us to come in and film this deposition. And the company that we were working with, this was at the beginning of like switching from film and digital video into like the digital video that we know now. And the guys had a Mac, and I didn't know anything about Mac at this point. I was 20 years old, I think. And they had like the G5, and I was like, whoa, this is so amazing. And he was like, look at all the stuff you could do. And there was like Photoshop and early versions of Final Cut and video. Like you could just do, I was like blown away. I was like, you could do everything with this thing. I need to get a Mac. So the first computer I bought, I saved up, and I think I was 20, and I bought a mini Mac, the little mini, like the first ones. Maybe it was an iMac, the first one I got. I think, I can't remember if I had an iMac first or the mini Mac, whichever one was out first, and then I upgraded, I think, to one or the other. I eventually had like an iMac, and I actually had those as my desktop setup for many, many years. And so did you, Travis, right? That was like
we liked iMacs.
Yeah. But I have been a Mac boy since the beginning of my computer life.
Have you outgrown the whole like have to have the newest version thing? I feel like there was a time where we all like were all about that, but then like lining up out the door kind of thing, right?
Well, what's interesting is, going back to what we were talking about earlier and just the exponential progression of technological innovation. There was a time circa 2000 to 2012, right, where so much new stuff was coming out, the internet and then smartphones and then the app store and the iPod and like just all of this stuff. And it kind of went into a lull, right? But Apple really lost their innovative spirit. I mean, obviously, especially since Steve Jobs died. But I will say the introduction of the M1 system, the system on a chip, that was, and I think people don't realize how significant it was of an event. And I think that was essentially like going, like the release of the iPhone. It was such an impactful thing for computing, because after the introduction of the M series, now we are at a point of diminishing returns where you don't want to go get the new thing because the thing you have is fine. It's like most people get a Mac, even just an iPad now has an M chip in it. It's way more powerful than most people will ever use.
Right.
So now we are at a point of diminishing returns with a lot of this tech where it's like,
what? I didn't know that. You're saying like they just announced an M4, right?
Yeah.
And you're saying that's more powerful than they'll ever need to use?
Most people, yeah.
Yeah.
Most people don't need that power. They're checking email and watching YouTube.
Yeah.
I mean, even me, I'm on an M1 and an iPhone 13.
Yeah.
I got no problems with them. I love it. I run Ableton. I edit video. I do everything. So, it is at a point where the returns are diminishing of upgrading because they're so powerful. So to answer your question, yeah, with a lot of the Mac stuff, if I was balling, I would just get the new one, obviously, because it's cool and I'm a fanboy. But it's not something you really need anymore.
It's fun to get excited about, but not necessarily have to go straight up. Yeah,
the M series chips were a significant event in computing, in consumer computing power. It's wild what we can do now with our computers.
Nice.
that's why like everything now is just like these little tiny upgrades, or this camera's a little bit better because it's hard to do like I don't know how to explain it, but
Yeah, I think the way it needs to go, hopefully, is a little bit more of like, they're just packing so much stuff in. Like, my monitor, I was using the Apple Cinema monitor for many years, and it finally eventually died, and it was like 12 years old, and it was great. I loved it. And Clark is asking if the M4 is using ARM architecture. I think yes, it's all the same, right? It's all that system on a chip is all ARM, if I'm not mistaken. Clark and Dave are also talking about Dreamweaver. I would click and feature their comments, but my computer is unresponsive for some reason. But yeah, Fruity Loops, Dreamweaver also was an early one, which is pretty funny.
Dude, it's fun to see when those things are still like doing well, like Dreamweaver. He's saying like it's always fun to like oh yeah, it's still happening, even though I don't use it anymore.
I went to an Ableton meetup this week, and there was this kid who showed up who had a laptop that was literally broken, like it was crunched in half, like the hinge was hanging, the screen was like dangling from the hinge in such a way, and he was trying to play Fruity Loops for the group and connect with their HDMI, and his laptop kept on like rebooting. And he was from France. He was from Paris, and he had a Parisian accent. And
oh no, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Messing with this busted laptop, like apologizing all the time and like taking forever. And everybody's just like waiting on him. And there's like the blue on the screen. It was pretty wild. And then he's like, oh no, it's rebooting now. It won't take long.
Well, good on him, right? He's getting
really cute. It was, yeah.
He's doing what he can with what he's got.
Yeah,
that's
and
what's important.
That's so cool.
What are you here for? Like, cause I thought that he's like maybe here, like his auntie lived here, and then he just came out to this. He was like, no, this is. Like, he wants to come to Oakland to be a DJ. And that was like
good.
It was cute.
It's really cool to see people who like when you can see tech reach places that can enable people who and give them opportunities. So like people like coding from a phone in Africa, learning how to code. Like it's really cool to see that where people won't be necessarily limited and they're trying to use the things that they have to its capabilities. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah. But what I was saying about the monitor, with Apple's products, they're cramming a bunch of stuff into them that people don't need. So you know they have the Apple monitor, the Studio Display, which is like $1,600.
Mm-hmm.
And most people, especially at the creative level that's going to actually be utilizing that, they have like a DSLR camera that they can use as a webcam. They have a speaker system, you know, and I am curious about like the pricing. Like, is it that the display actually costs so much to make and they're like, oh, well, no one's going to spend $1,500 on it. We need to pack in this other stuff. We need to cram in a camera and like this chip and, you know, but I think it is going to get to the point, especially like the new iPads that they released. They're like a new camera, like on the back.
Yeah.
It's like, who's using the camera on the back of their iPad? Like, no one's
maybe
filming with that.
Creators, I don't know.
No one's seriously creating with the back of the iPad, right? Like you use the front one as a webcam.
Yeah.
But I think Apple is going to be kind of forced to start releasing things that make a little more sense, like a tablet that doesn't have the camera on the back at a more reasonable price, right?
Yeah.
And at a lighter weight, and you can do so much more with that space. Same thing with the monitors. If you can just get that Apple Glass and that Retina display and the P3 color space and all of that, but you don't have the webcam or the speakers, you can actually probably get it pretty affordably. And they could dominate markets if they just did that. It's crazy that instead of stripping them down and charging a better price point, they're packing in a bunch of stuff that people don't really need into it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Monitors just got to shine, bro.
What?
Monitors just got to shine, bro.
Yeah. Fruity Loop back in the days was resource intensive. I think he meant Fruity Loops, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was resource intensive. Yeah, no, everything. And that's what I'm saying. Like, if you remember like how slow things were rendering video.
Yeah.
I mean, I have an M1 Pro laptop. And I edit in DaVinci Resolve, 4K video, you know, color grading. I play with Blender, After Effects, obviously Photoshop, Figma, programming, Ableton Live, music production. Like, it's just, you can do so much now.
It's pretty wild compared to what we learned on, back in the day.
And when we say back in the day, this is a difference of computing and consumer power within 20 years.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I was thinking about progress, right? And we often talk about the progress that humans have made within the last 100 years, right? Going from like the steam engine and horses to Tesla cars, electric cars, and like the internet and stuff. And I was thinking of like between the year 1000 and 1000 BC and the year 0. That's 1,000 years. And for us to remember, we kind of compress the past. And we're like, oh yeah, everybody was doing stuff for 1,000 years. But the technological innovation and the spread of it within that 1,000 years is probably equal to what we've done in the last 100 years, right? And we're talking the spread of writing systems, the inventions of language and alphabets, right? The standardization of communication linguistic systems. Like these are massive technological innovations that became ubiquitous across all these different cultures that were mostly tribal warfaring and somehow also able to spread this type of technology and knowledge. You know, it's just interesting to me.
Yeah.
No, I agree. It's cool to see too, and like the idea of where that's going to be in like, I don't know, even a year from now, because Max, you were saying to Travis in another stream that kind of like the pre-pandemic feels like two different timelines, and like time kind of feels weird since then. I don't know if I think that's kind of what you were saying. I wasn't there for that conversation, but like if we think about it, like when everything was on like shut down, people were more like people like your grandma had to learn how to like use Zoom, and so it's like we kind of did integrate a lot of technology to the mass really fast.
Yeah.
And so I feel like we're in a different timeline. We've like hopped into this other almost like alternate reality in some way where now it's just gonna keep speeding up.
I would say I'm very, very grateful for that because it was a forcing of, and you see it in the generation, and people make fun of it where they're like, oh, kids now, they want to be YouTube stars or TikTok stars or whatever. But there is this kind of adoption of soft skills for the future when it comes to knowing how to use the internet, how to make a video and get it on there, how to understand a target demographic. And a lot of these people that are getting into that kind of stuff, until they get into it professionally, they learn that language to use, but they're kind of intuitively doing it at the beginning, targeting a demographic of people that are like them, people that they like and are into stuff that they're into. Jason's saying it's amazing though how the browser has become the entry point for very powerful tools. Yeah, Figma, VS Code, shows how accessible these powerful tools are becoming. Yeah, and how powerful the web is. Somebody, I think it was Jason mentioning cloud computing earlier. And that's an interesting thing. Offloading the processing to servers, but I don't think that that's actually the future. We see that with certain things like NVIDIA gaming. And also AI stuff, right? Like it's the AI that's running on a server somewhere. You're getting a response back. Obviously, you can install models locally and run them. But I do think that the future is going to require a revolution in the processing of these devices, mainly for distributed data storage, and distributed processing of certain things like financial information, right? Which essentially is the beginning of blockchain, right? The beginning of blockchain, that decentralized distributed processing and storage and state management. The main bottlenecks are onboarding for people and the processing of that information and the storage of the state of the data. But soon, it's going to happen automatically in everybody's devices. They're going to be having their own little centralized processing center. And hopefully, if it is a blockchain and there's economic components, that, the rewards will be evenly and randomly distributed to the devices that are doing the processing. So it also becomes this kind of passive income generator for everybody. And nobody owns it. And that is the only way to actually reach a true threshold of adoption when it comes to real decentralization. Because currently people talk about like decentralized web and that space, but it's not decentralized at all. It's become centralized immediately as soon as you access it through an interface that's hosted by someone else, that was built by someone else, if you're using a blockchain that only a few people are running nodes, it's not decentralized, Yeah, especially if people have ownership over the contracts and the tech. Like, that is kind of really what sets Bitcoin aside. The fact that nobody knows the creator, that it is more truly decentralized than any of the other projects out there. But getting back to processing and cloud computing, I think cloud computing is important, but ultimately the cloud is servers that somebody else owns. And I think the future is kind of getting away from the centralized control of processing and data storage and that kind of stuff. And frankly, it is the only way for us to progress as a species without being under the thumb of governments and financial institutions.
Yeah, I don't know how to share these comments, but Dave Lara said, in one of my discussions, I talk about AI being personalized to a person's phone, and that chip will help process these requests internally versus going on the internet. I think that kind of fits into the idea of devices becoming more decentralized.
Yeah, that's the way things are gonna have to go.
I did jump in about 10 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm gonna lose my hotel room.
You're gonna lose your hotel room? You're gonna get kicked out?
I extended, and then this is the limit.
Oh, that was nice of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to leave too. I gotta go to the grocery store still. I didn't get groceries today, so I gotta get dog food and all this stuff. And we are at 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And this was great. I love talking about AI, and I love that we can get involved with Dave and Clark and everybody, and Jason, everybody in the chat. It's really cool. We didn't go down any of the development stuff. We'll save that for next time. And it doesn't have to be the whole episode, but I figured if, again, seeing as it is DevTips, I do want to try to bring it kind of back to some kind of development insights. Cool. And I do want you guys, especially you, Travis, to rediscover your love for programming, because you were so good at it and you loved it. And like last time we were looking at some of the old posts that you put on your old TravisNelson.com, like the music one of the review of your life of like what music was impactful for you at different years. Like, I don't think you realize how dope that stuff was, especially back then. Like the interactivity of the timeline and everything. Like, and now it's far easier to build something like that. So I think you don't realize what an accomplishment it was then to be putting out that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think just so you guys know, if you weren't here at the beginning, we will be going through some of the stuff that I'm working on, and I'm on a mission to help Travis and Jayna rediscover their love for programming. So I think that'll be fun for everybody.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Yeah, thank you so much for giving me hosting powers. I'm my first hosting of a live stream. and I know Max and I are new to this, so I'm figuring things out. And Jason asked if we can publish an agenda before to kind of know like what we're going to go over ahead of time. And that's a good idea. I like that. Then we can all kind of.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we can try. But I say in response to that, we, for now, or, it's really, it's Travis's channel and his network.
Yes.
So far, I think we're kind of in the place where we want to treat this more as like a podcast and a little bit more of like less of a presentation, like a business presentation or tutorial, and more of a kind of just a conversation between friends and stuff.
Yeah. Thank you for joining the conversation, everyone. Oh, Manuel's back.
What's up, Manuel?
Hey.
All right. There. It's good to see you guys. Thanks.
Yeah. We'll see you next week.
Cool. Right. Yeah. See you next week, and we will have a slightly more rigid agenda.
Yeah. I'm so sorry.
No, don't apologize. That's the whole point. We're just here hanging out.
Yeah. This was a lot of fun. It's good to chat with y'all.
Yeah, and I do want to talk more about AI next time. But thank you guys. Peace, everybody. See you next week.